So in mid-July, John Boden and I released a new novella called Cattywampus. It's available in print and ebook off of Amazon.com. And it was also, you can tell, it's part of the Knuckle Bucket Thang series. So since its release, John and I have had a lot of questions come in. What is Cattywampus about? What is a Knuckle Bucket Thang? What the hell is wrong with you two? So I'd like to take a few moments today to kind of discuss and answer some of those questions. A Knuckle Bucket Thang is part of an ongoing world that John and I developed based upon Rattlesnake Kisses, which was an early release this year. It came out originally as a limited edition through Thunderstorm Books and is now available in a trade paperback through Apocrypha. Again, you can also find that on Amazon.com. So the world that John and I developed, in Rattlesnake Kisses, there was a speakeasy bar called the Knuckle Bucket. Knuckle Bucket is a term that was used in the Deep South. It's a slang. It used to be used in describing a dice parlor, a place of ill repute, so to speak. So we really built this beautiful world that we enjoyed working in, and we continued working with it in Cattywampus. There is a continuation. It may not be readily available and seen at first, but there is a continuation in there. Look for it, you'll find it, trust me. Now with Cattywampus, some of the early reviews come in. People have really loved it. The reviews are pretty good coming in. But one of the questions, one of the comments that has come up is some of the topic matter. Yes, there are adult themes going on in Cattywampus. The thing is, and this has been an ongoing discussion with a lot of the writer group and friends of mine that I know in the field, you know, it's come up again and again, oh, you can't write about that. You can't say this. You can't do that. Here's the thing. These things happen in the world. There are a lot of bad things that happen in the world every single day. Open up your newspaper, turn on the evening news, okay? Just because you don't talk about it doesn't mean that these things don't happen. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. So, you know, I mean, John and I grew up with very similar childhoods. We knew a lot of people that acted like this. Those people are still around by the hordes, man. You know, bad things do happen. And I always thought, and I know a lot of the writing community agrees with me, it's our job to write the truth, whatever that means. I mean, yeah, we're writing fiction, generally speaking, but if we're writing something that's true to our characters, as they would be in their lives, as messed up as it might be, then that's our job, to do these things. To write about the underbelly, to write about the rich, the wealthy, the whoever, you know. But we have to do them justice. They have to be true to the character that we've created. These people do exist, unfortunately. And we deal with some pretty rough matter in Cattywampus. There's no doubt about it. But regardless, it is a complete chaos laden tale, and John and I really hope that you enjoy it. So today I'm going to give you a little sample reading from Cattywampus by John Boden and I. Chapter 1, Tuesday, around dusk. What in the Sam Hill are you doing with that? Darlene reached out to grab Sheila's forearms and ease them downward. And you know there are video cameras in the damn store, don't you? Sheila grinned at her and gave a snorting laugh. And you know the damn things haven't worked in over 8 months, don't you? That last word spat out in a sneer more than a joking manner. And the outside ones ain't worked in years. Sheila walked around the counter, stood facing the cash register, and then jerked her hands upward, aiming a small silver pistol toward the wood-paneled wall behind, drawing a bead on the "employees must wash their hands" sign hanging there. Give me all your money, bitch. Darlene made a face and shook her head. Gonna fuck around and shoot a tit off? Doubt it. The woman put her hands down and twisted her hips back and forth so her large breasts jiggled. These things are bulletproof. Hell, they're so big I could lose one, part the one left down the middle, and still have a bigger pair than most of the Ginches in this town. Darlene nodded at the gun. How'd you get that thing anyway? Jakey came home pissed drunk last night. Again. Passed out on the shitter, and I didn't find him until this morning when I heard him fall over against the bathtub. Damn jeans were soaked with pee and stinking. Puke in the toilet. Sheila put the pistol back in her purse, tucked away behind the counter. He's an asshole. Oh, I know he is, but look at me, honey. She put her hands on her hips. This late in life, my only choices are assholes. You now. Sheila stepped toward the food counter and pulled on a pair of clear disposable gloves. Young, beautiful thing like you, got your whole life ahead of you, honey. Oh, hell, to go back 30 years and be 16 again? Oh, shit would be different, I tell you. I guess so. I still think you could do better than Jakey. Darlene walked away from the register to turn off the coffee pots. I think you're pretty. That's awful sweet of you to say, hon. Sheila smiled at the girl and lowered her voice to a whisper, even though the gas and go was empty except for the two of them. The pistol's not the only thing I swiped from Jakey. Her smile grew to a grin. She reached into her purse and held up a small baggie of pot pinched between two fingers. Darlene laughed out loud and then tried to hide her reaction as a beat-up Dodge truck pulled up to the pumps outside. She had seen the pickup and its driver before. He'd been a regular the last several weeks, usually stopping by in the late evening for a fill-up or some smokes. A young guy, but old enough to buy beer. You could tell he worked in construction, or maybe as a roofer, wiry and lean. He usually wore concert t-shirts with the sleeves cut off, from bands she'd never heard of. Darlene had to admit she took notice he had a hell of a tan. Mr. Tan was the nickname they referred to him by when he wasn't around. Darlene pulled the used coffee filters from the coffee makers and tossed them into the garbage, but she took her time, glancing out at him as he stepped from the Dodge and stood beside it with a cigarette. He had the look of someone who hadn't been smoking very long and was doing it to try and look cool. He took another drag and flicked it, cool, into the patch of muddy grass to the right of the building. Darlene focused on the last of the coffee filters as he walked into the store. He glanced at her with a nod and a slight smile and headed toward the beer coolers in the rear. Flicking the power switch on the last coffee maker, Darlene walked straight toward the cash register. She caught Sheila's eyes as she stepped behind the counter and noticed the woman held one of the Gas and Go's big 8-incher hot dogs in her gloved hand. Sheila tilted her head and rolled her eyes back in her head as she twirled the hot dog and thrust her hips along with it. Darlene's face flushed. She bit her lip and turned away from the woman. Sheila was on fire tonight. God, did she take a puff of weed before she got here? Then again, Sheila hadn't been her normal self since Saturday night. Mr. Tan carried a 6-pack of Miller and a bag of Funyuns to the counter, and then grabbed 2 ready-made chili dogs from beneath a heat lamp. He set them beside the beer and flashed a smile. Pack of Marlboro Reds, too, please. He reached for his wallet as Darlene grabbed a pack of cigarettes and rang up the items. Looks like a bachelor kind of evening. Doesn't have to be. He smiled as he spoke, and Darlene smiled back automatically, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. His hand brushed hers as he handed cash over, his fingertips surprisingly smooth and soft. $4.68 is your... Her words caught as her throat dried up. Change? Mr. Tan's smile widened to a grin as he held his hand out for his money. Darlene counted out the last few coins one by one into his palm. The last coin was a quarter, and metallic clink sounded off, different somehow than it should. The front door to the Gas and Go swung wide open in a hard rush. The guy came in with his head down, and his hands jammed into the pockets of his ratty-ass hoodie he wore, a brazen fuck you to the temps outside, fluttering close to 90 degrees. He looked up at the ladies behind the counter and the skinny fella as he walked quickly to the back corner by the Free-Z dispenser. In a motion so swift no one actually saw it, he jumped and swung his hand, and the sound of cracking plastic and breaking glass followed. Darlene glanced up at the remnants of the broken camera, dangling like a large rat with its tail in a trap. Hey! Shut it! The man was right behind Mr. Tan, with his hands back in his pockets, but one of them thrust forward and upwards to amplify the something he had aimed at them. And don't fucking move. I'm nervous as hell, and this thing is a hair trigger. He tried to smile, but it was just a limp, crooked thing. His sweatshirt had ridden up to expose his midriff, and Darlene noticed the lacework of scars covering it. I want all the money, as in every fucking penny. The register, the fucking cancer can, all of it. With that, he stepped forward and poked Mr. Tan with the gun in his pocket. You can add your fortune to the pile as well, pumpkin. The tanned man smiled. Well, being as we've taken big steps past fucking formalities, why don't you just call me Billy? Mr. Tan took a swing. The man in the hoodie's expression became a mask of absolute terror. There was a loud sound like someone dropping a brick in a steel drum, and Billy fell to the floor, slow as molasses, with half of his head missing. Time stopped. So there you go. There's a little sample chapter of Cattywampus from John Boden and I. Go check it out and let us know what you think. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks.